First topic we are going to look here in India and its neighborhood is the relationship with China. This is your first class. Okay, so this is your class 1 and I want you to make notes while the class is going on. So make running notes and divide the page into 3 equal halves so that you'll have more space in each page. Short notes are made like this. Okay, first we will start off with India-China relations. This is your first class. Now, if you have to make any international relations note, think of 5 of these. Okay, E, G, S, T, E. These are the 5 broad themes on which the questions may be asked, and you have to make notes according to them. So E stands for your economic, G for your global groupings, S for strategic and defense, T for your technological, and E for education and cultural. Okay, now for any mains answer writing you have to have a introduction. For introduction as a template we should have this template ready, like ready made. We should have it. So what I have done is I've made one introduction, like India-China relations can be described as the relationship between two ancient civilizations and emerging powers. For this, if you see, what I've done is I have talked about the past as well as the future in the same line. So I am looking at the past and at the future at the same time. Again, continuing from that, India and China relations have a global and strategic significance. Yes, this could be your second line of the introduction. Now we are going to look at the background of India-China relations. Then we'll go back to those 5 themes. The background starts definitely with ancient India, when Hunsang and Fahin visited India during the ancient period. Okay, so they came all the way from China to India to learn about India, to see. So they mainly came for religious reasons. Then there was no like formal meeting between the emperors or anything. There's this whole gap between ancient India, and then till colonization there was like no formal talks between Indian and Chinese emperors or Indian and Chinese kings. When they both become colonized, China did not become colonized, but Hong Kong was a part of British Empire, and there was this tea trade between India and China, which you remember by Charter Act 1830, that it was the tea trade which was not banned. Okay. Then the last point is when the China occupied Tibet. So Tibet was occupied by China in 1950. Now Tibet has always served as a buffer state between the two nations. These two nations were separated by this land of Tibet, and they had no like formal contacts. When this Tibet dissolved, this made these two big giant economies become neighbors, and then India and China became neighbors with poor psyche and understanding of each other. So they did not understand each other. They do not know why they again became neighbors. The disputes came along with that. Then now we are going to look at the 5 themes that we have talked about. First theme is economic relations. First, economic relations, trade. So bilateral trade, you can talk about bilateral trade, which has reached about an all-time high of $80 billion. Whenever you write dollars, don't use this sign. This in heat of the moment it becomes like this or like this or this. So you do use USD. It's more formal and it's more easy to write USD. Okay. Economic relations are shaped through various dialogues. So there are 4 dialogue mechanisms. One is your joint economic group, strategic economic dialogues, financial dialogue, and the fourth one is development research center dialogue. Now, when you have to write a conclusion about economic relations, go with this thing. With global uncertainty prevailing, both India and China are set to profit as industrial powerhouse, but we need to work together. Again, looking at the present situation and looking at the future, like what it could be. Optimism. Global groupings. So global groupings that India and China both are part of. First one is BRICS, of course. It's in the name: China, India, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So both India and China are part of BRICS. Then there is NDB, National Development Bank, AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and then there is SCO. Okay, so these four are your major groupings that India and China are part of. Now comes the strategic and defense relations. So both the countries, they are there was similar problem of terrorism. China was also affected in the Kashgar region, and India in the Jammu Kashmir region. Both of the countries are affected by this terrorism. So they have this military exercise that is known as hand in hand. Then the second one is your RATS, that is Regional Anti-Terrorism Structure. Now this thing is a mechanism under SCO. SCO, as which you have seen, is your Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and this thing is also for counter-terrorism. Okay. Both the countries have executed the projects in Afghanistan as well. So in Afghanistan, both the countries are using their power, joint power, in making projects in Afghanistan, and they have trained the Afghan diplomats as well. Both of them. Okay, so that was about your strategic and defense relations. Fourth one is your technological relations. So in technological relations, what you talk about is science and tech. So whatever the science and technological relations we have. So both the nations have signed more than 20 agreements by 2020 to improve, science and technological ties. Okay. The main areas of cooperation include, again, go generic. From this line, go generic. Biotech, pharmaceutical, space, nuclear energy, anything which comes under science, just use that word. Okay. The last point in your technological ties would be your India-China Joint Scientific Group. Now this is an important one. Now they work together regularly, and as a result of which, this group, they meet regularly, and as a result of which a civil nuclear agreement was signed. Okay, that is why it becomes important. So that was about your technological ties. The fifth one is your educational and cultural ties. Again, educational exchange program is there, which was signed in 2006. So it was way back in 2006. The current scenario has much changed, but use these points in your answer writing, like to see like, okay, in the past we were like this, now we are like this. This educational exchange program was an umbrella program for educational cooperation between India and China. Okay. The scholarships are awarded to Chinese students. Now these Chinese students were awarded scholarship to study Hindi in Kendriya Hindi Sansthan. This is also an education part. Cooperation in education sector had resulted in increase of Indian students in China. So I think around 20,000 students of Indian origin are studying in China currently. Again, the people to people interactions is important. the number of population of Indians in China has increased due to the result of increased cooperation. Okay. Now come the major part. What are the challenges? So there are more challenges taken. The main ones are the border dispute, trade deficit, 1.1 road, South China Sea issue, the string of pearls theory, and the UNSC vote challenge. We are going to look at we are going to look at this one by one. First is your border dispute. So border dispute is mainly at Arunachal Pradesh, Aksai Chin. Then we have your recent happenings at Doklam, and the last one was Ladakh. Okay, we're going to look at them each one by one. So the border dispute started in Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh. See, what China says is that Arunachal Pradesh is nothing but South Tibet. Okay, which is not the case. Both countries claim both regions, but if you see, Aksai Chin is controlled by China, while Arunachal Pradesh is controlled by India. Okay, then there was Ladakh and Doklam issues. Told you. These are the more contemporary issues. These are the issues due to which these India-China relations becomes more important, because then questions comes from these part only. The trade deficit part. So India has the largest trade deficit, around 50 billion US dollars, with China. Why? Because Chinese, what they do is they give cheaper products, and they have large quantity of them. So the trade deficit has increased, and this has been the major concern between the relations, that the trade deficit between India and China has increased considerably, $50 billion. Then there is this issue of dumping, in which China, you have seen about the Chinese toys, which were हम लोग कहते थे कि एक बार टूट गया चाइनीज़ तो वापस नहीं आता वो. So these were toys की they were made with cheaper material, and they flooded the Indian market with these toys at a cheaper rate. This is called dumping. India has placed anti-dumping rules in this, but they have controlled it, but not significantly. The next one is OBOR, One Belt One Road initiative. Now this is like a revamping of the ancient Silk Route by China. It is an initiative to connect major countries through a group of infrastructural projects. So infrastructural projects are spanning worldwide, connecting all of the continents. In this, what China does is China is investing into the country's infrastructural projects, and then they're using that road for logistics, transport, etc. The one issue is that it passes through POK. POK is Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Now this part, if you see, this is Jammu and Kashmir. This is your international border. This is your Aksai Chin. This is your Siachen. So this POK part. So this is Xinjiang region of China, from Kashgar, somewhere north from here. From Kashgar, this line, which is the CPEC. This is CPEC. It goes directly to the Gawada port. Okay. The problem of India is that this is a disputed region. POK is a disputed region between India and Pakistan, and the case has been filed in UNSC. The dispute is still going on, and that is why it becomes a bone of contention, because if CPEC is going through this part, then China recognizes Pakistan's authority over this part. Okay, that is the problem. The last one is the South China Sea. Now you have seen the Chinese incursions in the South China Sea. They are in news regularly. Then India's Look East policy, which has threatened the Chinese dominance in the region. So South China Sea is filled with minerals and natural resources, and that is why China is looking towards this area to get a better control. Plus, there are trade routes in this South China Sea. And next up, we have the string of pearls theory. So, what this theory says that China is making these ports such as Gwadar, there is one in Djibouti, there is in Hambantota and Maldives. So, what it is doing is they are trying to surround India. So, these ports are these like string of pearls. So this is that theory. This is an international relation theory. That Chinese ports at Hambantota, Gwadar, Djibouti, they plan to surround India. The last point is of UNSC vote. What China does is they use their veto power. So UNSC is a P5 member. One of them is China. So they have a veto power. What China does is they use their veto power to support Pakistan against India, or they block any resolution that is brought by India against Pakistan. So they veto it directly. China is also blocking India's membership of NSG, that is Nuclear Supplier Group, and the UNSC itself. So there is this demand growing that the UNSC should be expanded, and China is blocking the India's membership. So what we have done till now to ease our tensions between both nations, there have been informal summits. There have been formal summits as well. So these informal summits has been used as a trust building exercise, such as Wuhan, and the one was another in Malappuram. They both were informal ties to develop informal summits to develop the bilateral ties. Okay. Now the last thing we have to do in answer writing is the way forward, like how we can introduce a way forward. First, maintain a high level exchange in bilateral meetings. Of course, high level exchanges means the people at the prime ministerial position. So Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping. So they should have bilateral exchanges, high level exchanges. The another one is coordination. See, both the economies, India and China, both are emerging economies. So they should be coordinating instead of fighting in geopolitical issues. Geoeconomic planning should be there, and go on from there. Maritime cooperation should be required because both are trading nations, India and China both. So maritime cooperation is required. Naval exercises should be there between the military, between the navies of both nations. Both countries need to define a roadmap to decrease the trade deficit. See, the trade deficit issue has been very large. This trade deficit has to come down. So both the countries has to sit down, make a roadmap about this. India should work with multilateral institutions and countries like Japan to develop regional connectivity. Just like OBOI, we have to make regional connectivity possible. Another one last you can add is both India and China should work on the last border issues. These are also one important because due to these border issues, Doklam, Ladakh, the Pyongyang Lake incident happened, and that has to be decreased. Conclusion, you can write as tensions between two emerging economies erodes the idea of Asian century. So Asian century is a term which has been used by both of the nation top leaders. The idea of Asian century that both India and China as well. A regular pattern of more formal as well as informal meetings is the need of the hour for stability in the region. So this could be your way forward and your little conclusion. This whole thing has been covered in 250 words, more than 250 words, to give you a better idea of the whole relations. This is your practice question of the day. India and China are part of which of the following multilateral institution? Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, BRICS, and Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Post your answers in the comment section and we'll see this answer in the next class.